Hi, it's your girl Jade, and you are watching Mary Seacole's Youth Voices, giving young people a voice. And today we will be speaking about substance misuse, and we have some very, very special guests with us today. So I'll let them introduce themselves. We'll start here.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Louise. I am the team lead for the Resolutions Children's, Young Persons and Family Service here in Luton.
Hi guys, my name is Anashe. I'm 20 years old. I'm a young person in Luton studying digital media.
Hey everyone, my name's Dan Gaze from Dan Gaze Support Services. I work with a team of us supporting and mentoring across Central Beds and Hertfordshire, and I'm here today with some great positive people to do a great podcast for you guys.
So, as mentioned before, we're here to speak about substance misuse within the Luton and Bedfordshire area and how it's affecting young people. And we believe that the guests that we have invited here today all have something important to say about this topic, and all have an influence some way within this topic as well. So, I just want to first start off with asking you all what substance misuse is to you.
Okay, are we going with a flow?
Well, why don't I go?
Flowing on that one,
Yeah.
are we? Okay, so I guess substance misuse is anybody, any person taking a substance, usually called a drug, within a drug, whether it's legal or illegal, that they put into their body, and that changes their experience of the world. So it might make them more more relaxed. It can help them sleep. It could put their energy levels up, reduce it. So psychoactive drug is, I guess, what we're talking about, things that people put into their bodies, either for fun or to experiment. Some people use it to kind of feel better. And I guess it's when people are using it to feel better, that's when we generally see people developing problems with it, because they become more dependent on it to feel okay in life, I guess. So yeah, that's what I would say substance use is. Yeah.
I don't know where to pick up from there. I think for me, of my definition, I'd say it's more, like you said, people using substances, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, what they're putting into their bodies, whether they're, I guess, overdosing it in a way to kind of numb their situations, numb their pain, whether it's for a good reason, whether it's for a bad reason. And I guess it kind of affects how they appear on the outside, so it could affect their behaviour, how they're feeling, their moods, all that sort of stuff.
So something that becomes addictive, that can be a habit to start with, becomes addictive, and then changes your mood and personality, who you become, and then you become dependent on it.
I think that like you all said, like one of the main things that you all mentioned is that it's something that changes your behaviour. Even if you are somebody that's functioning whilst misusing a substance, it can still change your behaviour. Even if you're appearing okay on the outside and you're going to work or doing your shopping or whatever it might be, doing your everyday tasks, and you seem that you're fine, even sometimes I feel like the people that know you are still going to know something's not right, or your behaviour or the way you reacted to this, or do you know what I'm saying? So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to some young people's views on substance misuse, what they think it is, and then we'll come back to the discussion.
Good.
Can you tell me what substance abuse is, if you know?
Substance abuse is like abusing alcohol, drugs in the wrong way.
When you use substances either recreationally or whatever it might be, and you misuse it, like you just do it too much to the point where it's affecting your health, your mental health, your social life.
Just where you use a substance like in a wrong way, a bad way.
Do you feel like we have a drug and alcohol problem with young people in Bedfordshire?
Yeah, we really do. Like, it's very easily accessible. Like, literally, like around the corner, you're smelling it. Like, alcohol is very accessible. The Bossman corner shops, they're very easy, like for kids, young kids. you know, someone that's still in primary school to easily accessible like cigarettes and like alcohol and whatnot.
Most of the people that I see on the streets that look like they do are like in their 40s. So I wouldn't say we have a drug problem here in Luton. No, not really.
I've met a couple people my age who've done certain things. Obviously, they try and live a, say, normalish life now, but yeah, I'd say so. My auntie works for the drug and enforcement, whatever they're called, in Luton anyway.
So now that we've listened to what the young people have to say, the next question I want to ask is, do you think that we have an issue with substance misuse in Luton and Bedfordshire?
I'm happy to go. So yeah, I do think we do. If we look at vaping, so let's go with vaping. So first of all, the fashion tool that I call it, the ones that are designed for what people, cherry ice and stuff like this that are out, that are designed obviously for young people. And you know, the government would probably hate me for saying this, but and I don't want to be putting a cherry ice pop out of my pocket and vaping it. So these young people now, they've been marketed to buy these things, and I think that it's become a fashion tool. And if I look in the schools at the moment, there's vape alarms in the schools, teachers outside the toilets, because they have serious problems with vaping because these vapes are coming in. And then you have the problem with disposable vapes, that people are misusing and putting THC in them and spice, which is causing big problems as well. And I think it's a way of getting young people addicted, and a platform that then takes them onto other things, which is not on.
You know that I had no idea that I see young people with the vapes and stuff, but I had no idea it was so bad. I mean, for me growing up, people just smoke. They're just smoking straight up, smoking weed outside the school, like round the corner from the school. But do you know what I'm saying? It was just that or you would see like the older lot coming in from lunch break. Yeah. Eyes are looking a bit. Do you know what I'm saying? And you'd be like, oh my goodness, like we know what they've been doing, kind of thing. But I didn't know that the vapes had gotten so out of hand, because for me, when vaping started to become popular, it was very much more, you know, people trying to stop smoking and stuff like that. They weren't even attractive looking when you went to go and buy like a vape. It would just be like this chunky, but now mechanical looking thing that do you know what I'm saying? And I never really, even as somebody that's like very aware of like propaganda and like marketing and stuff, I never realised until you said it that it's been marketed almost towards young people because of the colours, the way that it looks, the
flavours, you know, cherry ice, apple ice, you know, they're like slush puppies but in a vape, aren't they, if you think about it. And you know, I think that this government really need to look at what they're letting be sold. And I go to some shops, they're behind the counter, you go to other shops, they're just sitting there, young people can just take them. You know, I've
been working with the schools around this recently, and in October last year the government did do like a 3-month study around it, and there were outcomes that come from that, and there is such a direct correlation in 2021 when these vapes that are directly advertised for children, there's a direct correlation with the upturn of youngsters as young as 11. Even the primary schools are kind of contacting us now to do assemblies, do interventions around it. It's become so kind of popular, and as you say, the way they're advertised, you can't smell it either. So as you say, back in the day, we'd have a cigarette or whatever, you'd have to hide the smell. Now you can sit in a class and vape. They have tactics on holding it in so that it doesn't make a smell in the air, you know. So it's, and then the THC as well in the vapes, that doesn't smell like as if you're smoking a joint. So it's so much more accessible. Young people's tolerances are going up, and along with that, use of other drugs, mental health, deterioration. So it's all contributing to, I would say, definitely an upturn in concerns for young people and drug use. For people to make money.
That is so mind-blowing to me. I thought we were going to talk about drugs and alcohol today. I did not think that this was going to... I didn't know it was that bad.
It's on the radar all the time,
really
with schools at the moment.
I think it's when you're looking at vapes and stuff, I think a lot of it revolves around peer pressure as well, who you hang around, who you're with. And as you said, like people going from like as young as 10, 11, they don't know what's in it. They just see people, you know, taking it, and especially like you said, the colours as well, the flavours as well. You don't know what's actually in that little bit, like the nicotine, but also other stuff as well they're putting into it.
And also as well, the difficulty is we don't know what that's going to look like in 20 years' time. So cigarettes, when they first come out, I want to say the 50s or 60s, I'm not too sure if I'm honest with you, look at the health effects of cigarettes. You know? So we don't know the health effects of these vapes. And if people are tampering with them, what they're going to do to these young people inside as well.
That's actually crazy. I was gonna say when it comes to like cigarette smoking and stuff. Well, back in the day when people were smoking, it was like I remember somebody at like an old workplace of mine, and she said, "Well, back in the day, you'd go to the doctor and say I'm stressed, and they're like, oh, have a cigarette." But obviously, over the years, over the decades. And they've done the research on it. They're like, actually, the tar in the cigarettes, all the other chemicals, it's cancerous, this, that, and the third. And then they've realised that's actually not good for you. But because of the nicotine itself, like, releases something that, like, boosts your endorphins and like makes you feel a bit better. But the only thing is, it's temporary.
Exactly.
And so because that's where the addiction lies.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily in smoking per se, but it's the temporary
It's
fix
that feeling,
of the feeling of the stress relief. But then the minute that wears off, then you're smoking another cigarette, and then all the other things, and then causing damage to your lungs and stuff like that. So
but it's mad now. I don't know about you guys. I haven't smelled a cigarette in a long time. Like we used to walk around the street and always smell cigarettes. I just smell strawberry or cherry, or I don't actually smell cigarettes anymore. And even when I was in London the other week, I didn't see one person smoking. Just everyone was vaping. Everyone.
That's actually crazy. I think everybody, in terms of like adults, like I feel like when you're trying to, like I said before, when you're trying to quit smoking, the vape is the alternative to help you to eventually just stop. But I feel like you said, because of the colours, because of the flavours, it's become very
it's almost like they're trying to dial it down, make it look
attractive to young people. And even again for my age when I was younger, because if you remember, there was a time when smoking was legal at 16. And it was just before I got to 16 that they changed it to 18. So it became a bit more, restrictive for young people to go and get cigarettes and all of these kind of things. So it's like they saw that there was an issue with young people smoking. So for this now to be that way, it's kind of like almost backfired in a way as well. I feel like peer pressure does have a lot to play with it, and that's what I was going to ask you. You actually mentioned peer pressure as well, which was crazy, because I was like, that was the next thing I wanted to ask was, do you think that peer pressure, is something that affects these young people and has them trying different substances and drinking
100%,
alcohol as well?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think social media and look at TV nowadays, and social media, YouTube, so influenced. I mean, the other thing we could touch upon is steroids, and steroids, how they become sort of rife now. Young people looking at body consciousness and looking at how young people look, and you go into the gym, there's a lot of young people that are really big now that have got big all of a sudden. And I'm not saying they do steroids, but I know they're quite rife, and people taking steroids because they're body conscious. They want to look like people in celebrity reality shows that I won't name, and and they want to look a certain way because they want to be an influencer, is that the right word?
Influencer, yes.
Or they want to be in the public eye, or they want to have white teeth, and they want to have the perfect look.
Be accepted in society.
That's exactly it. Because you're younger than me, so you know what I'm saying. But for me, it's worrying. What's coming out to our young people, and the addictions and what we feel accept is right for our young people around this, the vaping, the steroids, around everything, before even we go on to alcohol and any other drug.
I feel like as well, when it does come to the like you said, social media and celebrities and stuff like that, I do feel like I see celebrities, it's not so popular now, but when they drink like the lean,
I was about to say about that,
the lean, so they put like is it like codeine, but like liquid codeine?
Yeah, it's kind
of like
Sprite. Yeah, that's right, Sprite, and then liquid codeine, or like cough mixture as well. I think it's promethazine is the name, but then codeine is the main ingredient. They'll drop into this lemonade, down it, and it gives you like a really kind of quick kind of alcohol experience. I guess it's similar. And I guess the issue is the kind of codeine is an opiate-based drug, and if you take too much of it, then your body will eventually start becoming dependent, risk of overdose. There's so many risks around it, but as you say, promoted through music videos from the American rap culture. Young people are using it as it's promoted through TikTok and different avenues, without knowing the risks, I guess, isn't it? That's why it's so important for that kind of awareness and education, to be out there within schools, colleges, and where young people are, so that they get the facts and not the the stuff that they may share amongst each other, I guess, which is a massive part of what we do at the service, is kind of that education, workshops, assemblies around the vapes, around the lean, around all the new trends that are coming through. There's so much coming through on the market now through the dark web, you know, the cocktails of substances that people are using. It's just changed so much, hasn't it, over the last few years? So
I'm just like,
it really is, yeah.
But some of these things that we're talking about, I'm just like, wow, like some of this stuff where not always even aware, when you're in your own world and you're doing your thing, sometimes you're not even aware that it's that deep, or like I can know that it's there, but it's like I didn't realise that it was that deep in terms of like what the young people are doing. But then when I think back to when I was younger and how things used to be, and kind of like it kind of makes sense at the same time, because young people are going to experiment and stuff, but I just think that there needs to be, like you said, like workshops and things that are happening. What are the schools like with that? Do you think that they are asking for the workshops like as and when, or are they always like, no, we need this awareness within our schools? Or is it because some of those things are new, I guess, like the vaping and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, different schools, different approaches. Some will have like regular kind of, have us in regularly to kind of just do generalised kind of awareness, and then maybe top up with more targeted kind of interventions. Sometimes we can just speak to a small group of young people that they've identified within the school. Other times with the vapes, it's like, please, can you just talk to the whole school at the same time and do an assembly? So yeah, different schools, different approaches. So yeah, we just kind of respond to those requests. There is a network within Luton that all schools attend around young people's mental health, and we attend that. So we promote what we offer, and then schools kind of come in on from that angle. Plus we've got what we call Substance Impact Champion Programme, where each school has its own identified teacher or staff member within the school, so that the pupils and the rest of the staff members know that person is the person to go to, and we provide a link worker for that person. So there's a network and a community kind of communicating the different needs of different cohorts of schools and areas, and pupil referral units as well. They would have a different need, and we are probably in some of those more often than maybe the schools, and coming at it from a different angle, becoming more of a familiar face, so that the young people feel that we are approachable, we are there to support them, we're not there just to kind of be really structured and rigid, we're there to just kind of engage with them and lightly kind of support and kind of give the right, I guess, information around what support we can offer and stuff. So yeah, varies.
So Enashe, as our young person here today, what is it like from your viewpoint when it comes to like viewing the world from your eyes with substance misuse? What's your experience in terms of like how it can be for other young people around you as well?
I think for me, I didn't realise, like, I wasn't aware of like substance misuse until I got to like maybe secondary school, college. I think college more so, like, because it's literally everywhere. Like, you're in the mix of like 16, 17, 18, almost people going to like adults like in their young 20s as well. I think vaping especially is extremely, like, you see it everywhere, you smell it everywhere, it's everywhere. And I think one of the things is definitely peer pressure as well, like who you're with. I mean, I can speak for myself where I've vaped, I've done it. I ain't ashamed to admit it, sorry mum, but it's happened. And I think, you know, you get caught almost in that sort of thing where it's like you have to kind of fit into that like social norm, if that makes sense, or you have to kind of fit into your environment to be accepted, or, you know. And then once you start doing it, it's like, you know, it's either looked at as cool, or, you know, it's there to numb the pain of what's going on in reality and things like that. It's all different sorts of things, but peer pressure is definitely like something for me that I've seen that is like the main cause of vapes when it comes to young people, or when it comes to substance misuse with young people, whether it's alcohol, drugs, anything like that. I feel like peer pressure is like the main thing.
Do you feel like peer pressure is more like subtle now, but in terms of its approach, but more impactful in terms of the outcome?
What do you mean? So
what I mean is, like, do you feel like people, like back in the day, for example, for us, peer pressure really was your friends being like, go on then, just try it, da da da. Well, now it's more like
it's not
we're
really
trying to fit in.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily people like coming in your face. It's more so it is very subtle. It's more like you see it around you, but then you're the only one that kind of stands out like a sore thumb. So you're thinking, okay, well then I kind of have to, in a way. You kind of, it's a feeling
To fit in.
Yeah. And then obviously things going on at home that may add into it. Things that are going on, you know, you never know what people are going through, and then just that one moment of, you know, picking up a drink or smoking or using vapes, that one moment can just transpire into whatever.
It's true. People kind of turn it into their vices, I would say.
Yeah.
I truly believe that our young people are either scared or they're struggling with something and they don't know how to get, so they turn
100%.
to drugs or recreational drugs or vape or fighting or gangs or whatever way you want to do it. And people laugh at me when I say it, but I really do mean this. Like, our young people are scared. Like, when I talk to them, they don't want to be in these situations. Let's be honest, a child's not a child no more. We expect them to be adults. You know, I even have to really check myself. My boy's 11, and sometimes I say, "Oh, you need to." I think, actually, no, you're 11. You know, when I was 11, actually, you know, it's okay what you're doing. It's okay. You know, I don't mean illegal stuff. I mean, you know, like,
just
being 11.
Leaving your clothes on the floor, for example. You know? But you know, I just think that going back to the peer pressure, there is so much like clothing. You know, you must have this clothing, you must have this jacket, you must have these trainers. If you then them young people need to either get them trainers or they don't fit in, and that's where I think this problem's coming from.
Well, we're gonna hear what the young people have to say, and then we'll be back with you. Do you feel like there's peer pressure to drink or take drugs?
Once you're around with certain people, yeah.
I think because there's just a lot of influence with like older people, friendship groups, your surroundings, your environment, stuff like that can have a lot to do with like peer pressure.
Within like friendship groups, sometimes, you know, you're kind of pressured to do like socially. That makes sense.
It kind of seems to be the social norm nowadays, I guess, especially if you're into like raving and clubbing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess so, yeah.
How do you think you would help somebody who might be a substance misuser?
I'd probably just Google services that they could use, that, you know, people that they could talk to, centres that they could go to. That's probably the best way.
Try and tell them the truth, be honest with them, and then send them my auntie's number, because she's always saying to me, you ever know anybody that needs any help, please don't be afraid to give out my number. That's her job, that's what she does for a living. So yeah.
How can we improve education and awareness about the risks of substance abuse?
Need to teach it in schools. They want to teach all of this about 1966, British World War. Who cares? There's wars going on now. They're not teaching the kids about that. They're not teaching the kids what's going on between Palestine and Israel. But they want to teach us what happened in 1949, Second World War. No one cares about that. No one hasn't got a clue. So they need to teach kids this relevant. And
everyone, like a lot of people say, bring back like the youth clubs and whatnot. I'm not too sure about how to address it, but it all starts like with a conversation, innit? Like people that use it and whatnot, and then maybe a workshop or something like that.
I think just more communication in schools, because I remember when I was growing up, I didn't really have that as a kid. Like when I was in primary, secondary school, I knew a lot of people that were smoking and, you know, doing drugs and things like that, and I didn't have someone like that to come and talk to me. There was always like adults just judging you or saying, oh, that's bad, but they don't actually take the time to sit the child down and be like, okay, what's going on? Like, are you okay? They don't ask those important questions. It's always just aggression most of the time. So I feel like if you take the time to just talk to the children instead of just lashing out straight away, I feel like that will be beneficial, because they'll feel like, you know, they're in a safe space.
So how would you identify someone? I'm going to ask you first because of the services you work with.
Okay.
How would you identify someone, or could you always identify somebody that is misusing a substance, let's say like alcohol or drugs, something that's more effective on somebody's behaviour?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to be speaking to like a school teacher or family and they were wondering whether their young person or child was using a substance, it's that behaviour change, isn't it? It's kind of like if they kind of, you know, if they were under the influence, then it's knowing what the signs and symptoms are of whatever they were taking. So if it's alcohol, not being too steady on their feet, being a little bit more confident, a little bit more chatty, maybe having hangovers, sleeping the next day, staying out later with their friends, maybe being a little bit secretive about where they're going. Maybe if you're following up once or twice and they're not where they say they are, you kind of like get an idea, don't you, that that things are kind of not as maybe they say they are, and that's normal for young people. They like to, find their independence, do what they want to do, be influenced by their friends, be part of something. So they're going to go, and you're going to kind of take risks, aren't you? And it's difficult being a parent, teacher, but I guess that kind of change in patterns of behaviour of the child's not coming to school, going off a lot, and then I guess depends on the substance of the effect and sort of the behaviour you're looking for. If they're taking something more stimulant wise, like energy drinks is more prevalent for young people, but then I guess going into cocaine, amphetamine, you could have a child that is ultra kind of confident, ultra kind of chatty, but then obviously really down and low maybe a couple of days afterwards, and that could be linked to anything like that's any substance. And it's about, I guess, because there's so many different substances out there, drugs, powders, that are mixed with so much stuff. It's about talking to that young person about what their effects are, and I guess it leads into kind of understanding then, okay, if we're going to go more serious side of drug use, signs and symptoms, because some of those things kind of can overlap with mental health problems, low mood, depression. It can link to social problems, but it can also be that people are exploiting them, maybe kind of asking them to run drugs. It then overlaps into child criminal exploitation, and so then that becomes even more serious, and that is another area of what we see now as a massive problem, which is linked directly to drugs, is right in the centre of it. Drugs are used as a push factor, like, come here, we can give you this, you can earn this, and then it's used to trap young people, owe us this money. And then young people feel that they don't have a voice anymore. They feel they're taken over. But I guess us as services, Dan's service, our service, your service, it's like we are here, we do know these strategies, and we are here to listen and understand. And there's mechanisms and people that can kind of help, I guess, if those kind of issues are prevalent. So it's just, looking for that secretiveness, looking for 2 phones, looking for them hiding their phone, looking for having extra clothes, extra money. All those things are indicators of so many things.
I watched this video on TikTok, and this young woman, she's a mother herself of like younger children, but she was saying, she was like, in my house, she was like, there's no privacy until you're 18, and even then she calls out her children's names, and she said, just know we don't live with privacy in our house. And she was just like, because these young people ask for too much privacy, and you don't know what's going on in your own home, because they talk about you want privacy. She said, I went to my friend's house, and her mum was saying that, the little sister every minute saying, she just wants privacy, all of this stuff. But us as our generation, we never got that treatment. Same mum, but you're getting different treatment to even. So she was like, we bust in the door and found out that she's doing this and that, and talking to boys at this time and that. She was like, no, there's no privacy. And I agree.
So we was having a conversation just before about entitlement and understand the word no. So we obviously, you just spoke then, we lived in quite a controlled time. And now we live in more in a therapeutic, I would say, time with not a lot of boundaries sometimes. And I think we're struggling, and society's struggling with the entitlement at the moment, and not understanding the word no. And I don't mean us 4 in the room, but I mean in general, we're creating that environment for these young people, which then makes them feel unsafe, which means feels they're untouchable, which when I get into my life story later, that's what I thought I was untouchable, which is dangerous, and that there is no boundaries and consistency, so they can do what they want. So why are they going to listen to Miss Smith at school tell you not to use a vape when no one else is listening, and there is no boundaries and there is no consistency in life, because we've gone quite far at the moment, 100%. And we're in a little bit of a strange situation at the moment where I'm seeing teachers being rung up in schools because a member of staff has given a young person a detention and the parent doesn't want it or the carer doesn't want it, and I'm just quite concerned of what message we're giving to our young people. And the reason I bring that is because then in comes the vape. They're 18, they shouldn't be having a vape. So why are you allowing them to have a vape?
It's true, and I do feel like you said, in terms of we're in a therapeutic time, but also the lack of boundaries and stuff. Like people don't have, there's no shame. You said something earlier actually that relates. You spoke about back in the day it was the smoking and things, so they would have to mask it. Like I remember when I was younger, I didn't do that, but I had cousins and friends that were smoking, and then they have to spray, or if they're smoking something else, they're eye drop. Like they're doing all these different things to mask it. There was just a bit more shame in their game, whereas like they know what they're doing, then like, and even their parent could know what they're doing, but they still had the shame. So that even as adults, you wouldn't want to smoke in front of your grandparents or your parents because you're like, no, I don't want to be around them. Well, now it's just kind of more open. So I understand what you're saying in terms of like the boundaries, but on the other end, sometimes when it comes to certain substances and stuff, I feel like parents are very much like, you know, at least I know what they're doing because they're going to do it anyway behind my back too. So it's kind of a catch-22 in that respect, I believe. So yeah.
But then should we send our young people it's okay to break the law then? Because that's
Oh,
what
no,
we do.
definitely
Do
not.
you see what I'm trying to say? So by giving them a vape, is that right to do? Because then what are we telling our young people?
I don't think that they should give them the vape, but if they find out that their child is vaping, that you have that conversation and you let them know that they have to make their own decisions and stuff like that. But at the same time, this is what it can do to you. This is what it can do to your body. This is why it's dangerous.
It's almost like having an open conversation with them.
Precisely.
Like creating that safe space for them, and you know, where they can talk, but they have to know what is behind what they're doing and the repercussions of their actions.
Yeah, because to me, boundaries are therapeutic. Do you know what I'm saying? They actually should be a boundary is therapeutic because it's a boundary when it comes to that is about protecting your peace, protecting yourself, making sure that you don't get into trouble, making sure that like mentally that you're stable and that you're okay and that you're fulfilling whatever it is you want to fulfill in your life. So boundaries should actually be viewed and seen as something that is actually therapeutic. But because, you know, like you said, it's just confusion, and so they're not aware, and I just feel like there needs to be more of a conversation. Like the people I'm around, like, and even growing up myself, like especially hats off to my grandparents, they're very open in terms of having certain conversations with us, very candid, very raw, like unfiltered conversations with us where we're even like, you forget you're even talking to your grandfather or your grandmother. Do you know what I'm saying? But it was always a really good conversation so that you can make those decisions. Alcohol was something that wasn't really shied away from us because Caribbean culture, listen, they're like, when you're little, they're like, but then you don't become afraid of it and you don't feel like you have to go and hide to drink it. But at the same time, you know, this is an adult drink and you only drink this on special occasions, even if you are underage and you're in a controlled environment. So I personally never felt the need to go out and sneak off and drink with my friends in the park or whatever, because to me that was strange, because I was like, when I'm around my grandparents, I was drinking wine on Sunday. What do you mean? Like, it was a little bit, but do you know what I mean? Like, it was just, it wasn't a big deal for me to go and do that because there was no restrictions. So Dan, something you said earlier, you said, you know, you're going to talk a bit about your life. Obviously, when we spoke on the phone before coming to actually record and stuff, and we were talking about, like, you know, we're going to talk about substance misuse. And I had actually watched a previous interview about your life. And there was something that you actually mentioned in the interview when it came to, you know, a turning point in your life. So, and it kind of relates. So, can you share with us?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is that until you contacted me, I never put two and two together and thought I had substance abuse, and I'm now 40, and this offence was when I was 18. So I always talk about trauma and how it affected me, but actually I didn't realise how much I used alcohol to make myself feel a certain way, to try and just block everything out and try and enjoy life, I suppose is probably the right words. And I was underage drinking, and I was, and I'm happy to go through the story if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, you know, I was started working the door. Well, my whole life really is trauma. So, you know, I didn't have a dad growing up. I was expelled from school at 9, and I was sexually active at a very young age. And then I was in secondary school, and at that time my mum met a partner. He wasn't the greatest of role models to me. He didn't really like me. He used to tell me I'd be kicked out when I was 16, I'm not his son, and you know, sometimes would physically abuse me, which social services got involved in. That behaviour then went into school. I missed a lot of chunks of learning. I was probably seen as the thick, naughty kid, I'll be honest with you. I've never used them terms now. I'm dyslexic, and I probably had unmet need is probably what I would say it was looking back. And I was always trying to fit in, you know. I didn't have the greatest clothes. I lived on hand-me-downs. I had a great nan and granddad who always tried to support me. It would have been my granddad's birthday tomorrow. He's passed away, but he's a great person. And, you know, life just was hard. I'm not, you know, I was born in 83, so there was no such thing as split parents back then. You know, everyone was together. And I sort of looked up to bad role models, and as we go through you'll see what I mean. So I looked up to bad role models in life. I had dreams to be a footballer. I wasn't good enough. Dreams to be a boxer. When I was in school, they said to me, "Oh, what do you want to do for work experience?" I said, "I want to be a bouncer," and they all laughed at me and they said, "Oh, you'll just end up in prison anyway." This is what the teachers would say to me.
Wow.
You know, teachers would approach me, shut up in lessons, and then I would swear back at them, and then I'd get suspended. Well, they didn't realise my home life was terrible. I didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
You know, as much as my mum tried, you know, she couldn't meet my needs. You know, no breakfast. You know, sometimes locked out the house for hours until trying to break in my own house, and then my stepdad would want to call the police because I broke in my own house. You know, sometimes not food in the fridge. So that's why I'm very keen on what Marcus Rashford has done. You know, about free school meals, and whenever I do a project, I try and put food on. But for me, you know, I got into this stead of like a Wednesday night, student night in Stevenage, where I'm from. £1 a drink, it was great. You know, go to Weatherspoons, £10, 10 Alco Pops, Reefs at the time, smashed them, great. I was drunk. Problem was, you do that every week, you now need to bring on more to the game because 10's not enough. And I found myself doing Jack Daniels and getting involved with quite high spirits, never in drugs, just high spirits. And I kept getting into fights. You know, at weekends I'd work security. I was young, I was 16 and a half, 17. I'd work on the doors in London. So I was binge drink on a Wednesday night to feel better. Have Thursday off college, bunk it, because you don't get paid for college, do you? So I'd go and do my apprenticeship all week and then go out and drink and then hang over for the next 2 days and then on the door and carry on. And it leaded me into like fights, lots of fights. One week there was a fight where 15 guys jumped me. Tell me how I got the better of them. I did 3 run off. I hit 2 out, knocked them out, and I was quite. When you're, I say high, I suppose is the right word on alcohol. I was going to get that other guy that started it, so I chased him into Tesco's and beat him up. Police come, arrested me, and they said to me, you know, take you to police cells, and then they laughed. The police laughed. Now I was already an ego stage. You know, I had this pedestal I should never have been on. I was going to the biggest nightclubs, being let in, working some of the biggest stores around. I was working in Uxbridge at the time. I was 16 and a half, 17, you know, I shouldn't even have been letting people in, let alone, you know, drinking myself. I worked with, you know, a guy who killed Millie Dowler, probably our worst, you know, murderer that we know. He was our head doorman at the time. You know, some big guys, some really well-known guys as well, looked after some of the most, you know, around with So Solid and all the garage scene, Sharky P and all them sort of people as well. And I just thought I was something I wasn't, and then I'll drink and I'll be like, yeah, I'm this, I've got this persona. And then the police arrested me, on that night, and they laughed and they said, oh, you got the better of 15. And not sound terrible, I wish they never would have done that, because the week after out I went, got tanked up again, and I was a bit of a ladies' man, I suppose, even though I don't think I'm good looking, but I used to like play girls along and I shouldn't have. And ended up getting into a fight, and I probably could have killed this guy really if I'm honestly looking back. But I was so drunk I don't remember it until they showed it to me in Luton Town Crown Court on the camera, and in the court case, and where I just beat this guy to a living pulp. And looking back, you know, I believe that this journey's happened for a reason, so I can do things like this and work with young people. But it haunts me. It haunts me to think, you know, I was that out of control from alcohol that I cannot remember what happened that night. Only know from the camera that I watched in the court.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I really feel like we need more people to come forward that have had experiences in these different things that we talk about and share it, because obviously some people are a bit more like, I don't know if it's pride or fear. Obviously some people don't know everything about people's lives, but I feel like with you, because you've had that lived experience, what happens is young people will listen to what you have to say because you know what you're talking about. Do you know what I mean? So what is it that you do now with the young people, especially based on your lived experience?
So just saying what you're saying there, so good people that work at the Veru that I do a lot of close work with, they always tell me real recognises real, and I totally believe that, you know. And with my lived experience, so I set up a business too. So I was assistant head of a school, so after I come out of prison I changed my life. I went to London and I sort of tried to become a youth worker, but as you can imagine, no one would let me do anything around children. And one lady called Laura, she gave me a chance to be a youth worker, and I loved it. I volunteered and helped support young people in Luton, up sort of Hounslow Way and Uxbridge Way and Hayes, which was great. And then I come home and I went and worked in a Peru, and a great lady called Jenny that I know helped me apply for a job at a school, and I become a PE teaching assistant. And then I trained myself with a guy called Jonathan Kemp and Mark Woodison, were both the heads at the time, I have to give them credit, and a few other people helped me do really well. I become head of PE and assistant head, and then I become assistant head of 3 schools, and I just fell out of love for it. And the reason I felt love for it is I felt like I was ticking a box more than actually helping the root cause of young people. So I decided after COVID to set up Dangay Support Service, and I was a one-man band to start with. And I was just going around trying to help as many young people as I could. I met a great lady called Nick King, and she supports my work, and we sort of like pushed me into different schools to work with young people and just listen to them. You know, build them relationships. Relationships are key, you know. Be consistent and be around, which is not easy also with funding cuts sometimes, because sometimes you can't always be around. But I go into schools, I support young people 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1. I use sport as initiative tools. I run sport programs, get off the street and use your feet, basketball programs, bounce to success. And then I just do my 1-to-1 support. And I've grown now in 2 years. There's 10 of us now. And we have a little AP as well, where we do some work, and then we do other little projects around central beds, and mostly around Hertfordshire and central beds are mostly where we do our work. I say to young people, and see if you guys get this, is we're all on a pathway. Yeah, we're all on a pathway, and we all tread on the grass, right? But we don't want to keep treading in the dog's poo. And I hope you sort of understand what I'm trying to say here. You know, tread on the grass. We all do something wrong, you know, but we want to correct it and try and stay on the correct path, and we learn from our mistakes, don't we? You know, I know I definitely did, you know, but what we don't want to do is keep repeating the same mistake, like treading in that dog's poo, which smells and disgusting. We don't need that around us. And when you put that to young people, they go, oh yeah, you know. And that's like a metaphor I use that I think for young people helps them understand, because what they're doing ain't great. You know, what they're being told to do isn't great. You know, mistakes are okay, but when they're being groomed, or when they're constantly doing drugs, or being involved in antisocial behaviour, they're constantly doing it. It becomes part of their life, and we don't want that. We don't want that for our future. Because then, you know, their children, they need to be able to teach their children.
Literally, who's going to lead? Like, who's going to...
Exactly.
Who's gonna me? To be honest, God is my leader, but but obviously we live in a world where we have leaders, we have prime ministers, and you know, members of parliament and stuff, and it's just like where is and then talk about. But the thing is, they also talk about all of these things, but like I said again, there's no where is the influence for the young people to look up to want to be these other roles and do these jobs and things anyway as well. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like you said in school, you know, you were spoken to badly at home, and then you're spoken to badly at school, and it's like
one thing after another.
Where is the positive where is the positive words? Where are the positive words? Where is the positive influence to say, do you know what, you might not be good at this, if they want to tell you that, but you're good at this, why don't you try this? Where is that good influence of
looking for solutions,
like, you can do this instead? Because people are not people are so like stuck on like their own backside, basically, that they're not realizing, like, when you're talking to these young people, you're giving them complexes, you're impacting their life, like it's affecting them mentally.
And I think as well, it's not what you're saying, it's how you say it.
That's right.
Most definitely.
It's how you say it.
Right. And the tone as well, isn't it? And the tone as well. I always say positive praise, private criticism, and if it needs to be criticism, what I mean is addressing. You get more. You take the heat away from it. And when I used to train my staff, take the heat away from it. Build the relationships. When I used to say to them, crazy, the English teacher, come and do PE with the kids. I can't do PE, but they can't do English. These boys have dyslexia. Some of them are at cognitive age of like 6, and you're trying to get them to do GCSE English. You know, come out and build that relationship. 2 English teachers did that, and it really worked.
That's really good. Well, really what I say is check me and have my back in public, check me in private. So
I like that.
So as a young person, do you know, or would you know, where to go for support if you did have any issues with substance misuse, or if you had any friends or anybody that you knew that had an issue with substance misuse? Would you know where to refer them to, where to send them to?
Honestly, no. I would probably say that obviously there's different services out there. So I know for myself, I know of one. So there's the Total Wellbeing Service, which was when I was referred to. I had a person that I was speaking to at college when I was going through depression and stuff like that, and then she referred me over to them. And then you're kind of introduced to like talking therapy, so you're in like groups and things like that, where you're with people that are going through the same struggles, and they can refer you through like GPs, or they can refer you to, like, you know, doing positive activities and things like that. But other than that, I don't know of any other ones.
Okay, thank you for sharing that as well, because I feel like it's important, like, for young people to share their experience also when it comes to those kinds of things. Louise, the services that you actually offer is, I would say, is a place that people would go to. So
definitely, so this is a great opportunity to talk about that.
Yes, please.
So we are responsible for the whole of Luton Borough. We work with young people aged 5 to 25 who are inquisitive, using drugs themselves, or are also affected by parental or familial drug use, so living in a home where drug and alcohol use is being used as well. So referral process, we are at the Young Persons Hub, which is 89 Castle Street, right opposite Matalan. And it's a young person's service there, trauma-informed therapeutic service. It's a really nice hub for young people to come. And we have 4 young people's resilience coordinators, we call them, long mouthful, but they work with the young people on a one-to-one basis, offering individual packages. It's client-led. We're not about telling young people, no, you must not do that. We're about saying, okay, what's going on for you? Where is it causing you a problem? Let's work out how we can reduce that problem, so that at least if you are going to continue, obviously stopping is always the safest route, but if people want to continue, how can we make that as safe as possible for you, socially, emotionally, physically? So that's where to come. Resolutions Young Person Service, put that into Google and we come up there as well. You can drop in, phone us, or do an online referral, or if you're in schools, if you're linked to any professionals, then they'll be able to support you as well in getting a referral into us. We respond within 24 hours and you'll be linked up with someone that can support you within 5 working days. So simple as that.
Thank you. And Dan?
So myself, a child-focused business. We work with young people. Schools bring us in. Just designing my website now, so I haven't got it to plug. I'm very sorry. I have a YouTube channel, Dan Gay Support Services, which you're more welcome to subscribe to. Also in Flitwick, if you're a local person in Flitwick, we have the Flitwick Youth Hub that we run on a Monday and a Tuesday night for young people, and then pop-up sport around Central Beds. We're just growing as we go along, and we're hoping that we can keep growing and helping support as many young people as we can. I figured out that the 6-week holiday, I think me and my team, as part of another housing association, we worked with over 650 young people in the 6 weeks, which was really powerful, just doing sport and activities, and they're all engaged. So just keep driving forward and spreading the positive message, and hoping young people understand that we're here to support them and help them, everyone in this room. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for coming and sharing your experience with us. We really, really appreciate it. I think that you really contributed something important to the podcast, but you also contribute something to like the young people outside as well, in terms of your services, in terms of your views and lived experience. I feel like you're a really stand-up young lady that you have your own mind. Do you know what I mean? And that's another thing that's really important. Young people, have your own mind. Make your own decisions. Even if you think that your friends are going to look at you some kind of way, have your own mind, because in the end, you are the people that are like leaders. You are the people that will actually pave ways moving forward. And it is okay to make mistakes, and it is okay to experience things. I'm not going to encourage you to experience things that are illegal, but people will. It's the reality. But make sure that even in that you're making sure that you're in safe environments, and that you're making good decisions even there, even though that might not be a good decision. Just think about what you're doing. Thank you so much again, guys. I really appreciate you coming through. That's okay, and thank you so much for watching. Until next time.